Hello, and welcome to another episode of Walk the Dog Cinema. Roka and I are out and about, getting our walk on in this great sunny morning, beautiful weather, just all around a good day to take a walk and discuss some movies. But yeah, I hope everything's been going good for everyone, and you all out there are enjoying movies or whatever it is you do in your daily life. But today we're going to talk about Zootopia 2. The first Zootopia I really dug. Thought it was a fantastic movie. It was one of Disney's best in quite some time. It's a joy. Judy Hopps is a great character. Nick's a great character. And a lot of fun. I dig the world and kind of how everything's twisted for the animals and stuff. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say fully excited for Zootopia 2, because I think Zootopia in and of itself is quite contained. But I mean, to visit the world again and the characters, they've done something interesting. I think can hold pretty well. The first movie for me, I mean, was practically a 10 out of 10. So sadly for me, on one level, it can only go downhill just because the first one's so excellent, and the themes of it and everything. So this one has a interesting plot about how a snake possibly created Zootopia, and the effects of basically some lynx who have a journal that was how it was all built and done. And from that standpoint, kind of an interesting plot, and how we get there and why reptiles are where they're at, and then the whole mystery behind it. I'll say I think it's worth a watch. It is a huge step down from the first one in that regards. I mean, it doesn't even hold a candle. I think there's some great action set pieces in this one, but like I said, it's worth a watch. Movie made quite a bit of money, so I can see where that was, people wanting to visit the world, and it kind of just blowing up in that first week, and kind of had a little bit of legs. But you know, what's crazy is the first one came out, it got a lot of pub and talking about, and this one kind of like stealthily got to that 1 billion mark or whatever. And I noticed that a lot lately. So I don't want to go into conspiracy theory aspects, but you know, for me, it just you know, with how things are done, it kind of seems odd that it made that much money, but no one ever talks about it, especially like in the workplace or anything like that. But maybe that's just the day and age that we're in now, so I don't know. But overall, it's a decent film. I'm kind of one of those people that have continuity really like kind of digs into my brain and makes me enjoy movies less. So knowing that, I get a little bit of a bias when continuity is kind of struck or deprogrammed from something. You know, it's really what drove me nuts with Luke Skywalker and the Star Wars series. If you've been listening to some of my reviews, I kind of go down this rabbit hole and use it as an example a lot, from script construction and things like that. That stuff really just irks me when a character has gone through an arc, and especially in films. You might be able to get away with it a little bit more in a book because you can kind of describe things a little bit more, but in a movie, because it's so visual and everything, it is you know, we have our pet peeves and biases, and it is mine. When characters don't act like something that they've already dealt with and learned, you know, it ruins the enjoyment of a film for me. So that's kind of one of my things. But talk a little bit more about Zootopia 2. Yeah, so, you know, a little bit more, you know, I've always been kind of a big Disney guy. Like this season 2, I've dedicated to mostly action films, but also my Disney Dive series, where I'm kind of touching upon the live action Disney movies, and obviously any kind of new Disney movie, not for the most part, but for a lot, I'll watch. I grew up on it. A lot of the animation and live action films hold a deep place in my childhood and even adulthood with my children. And I can get into Disney's taking a step back, but I think in general Hollywood and all that has taken a step back. I'm not saying there's not interesting films out there, but we're definitely in a lull. It happens. You get your ebbs and flows with films. I think on a certain level, as I've dealt, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the 60s, where you kind of had this changing of the guard. They're really filling out what they could push the envelope on, until we got to the 70s, which just was kind of bonkers. And then we got 80s, where it kind of refined it. I think we're in that period. Hollywood trying to figure itself out, what it wants to do, where it wants to go. I'm not even just saying political. I'm just saying from plots of movies and exploration of themes. A lot's been done in the world from all of that, and it's just a matter of where we go with it. I mean, you still get some decent, fresh ideas. We've been in sequel heaven since the 70s, so that part doesn't even bother me as much. The remake stuff kind of does, because it's, in the sense, it's rehashed and it doesn't tell anything new with it, where I think the remakes in the past kind of did. So saying all that, that's kind of my little old man rant, I'll just say. But out of it, Zootopia kind of falls into a lot of that issue for me. At least this one does, Zootopia too. Has an interesting plot, has some great set pieces. The movie moves quick. It doesn't slow down in the sense that I think it has a great pace, has a great message. I love how the reptiles are introduced. I love marshland, where the sea life is at. It's all kind of interesting and fun with all the little in-jokes. But then there's some in-jokes that I get it, maybe parents have seen. There's some interesting references to horror movies, which is cool. I'm a horror guy, grew up on horror movies. It's kind of my first genre that I'm rather almost an expert at, I would almost put. But it's just kind of interesting when you look at it like that. It does a Jack Nicholson, The Shining reference in the film. And yeah, I got a chuckle out of it. But like when you think of it from a kid's standpoint, it's kind of an interesting choice. Because I actually really don't know. I mean, maybe quite a few people in the theater might have got that reference. I mean, on one level, if this movie was made early 2000s, I would have said absolutely so. I don't know about now, like how popular The Shining is in relative terms to the newer generation. I have a millennial kid. Like, I'm just thinking from a generational standpoint, Gen Z kid, and I have nephews that are down, just getting out of their teens in their early 20s. And to be honest, I don't think they even know what The Shining is. I mean, my kids do, just because kind of a horror buff, and I've watched the movie. They've seen it, and obviously it's the Stanley Kubrick version of it is terrifying in that sense. My son in and of himself doesn't like horror movies, but he's kind of watched some of the classics. And my daughter, who totally digs them, has watched quite a few of them. But, I have a nephew who he absolutely doesn't even know about The Shining. And this kind of movie would be one that he would watch. So it's kind of a cool little in thing for us older adults if you're watching it. But it's kind of a strange reference. It's just, that's where my head goes, you know what I mean? Like, is you just look at it and you go, oh wow, okay, they're doing this whole Jack Nicholson thing. It's a great visual, but again, an interesting choice. Like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with that. And they get a kind of good joke out of it in a sense. But I don't know how that scene would normally play out, you know what I mean? But on one level, kind of ingenious, I guess, but it's still kind of a strange choice for me. But like I said, has great movement, great color. I mean, you know, the way they fashion the world and all of that, I think really pays attention to detail and all that stuff, which is crazy when you get down to it. The part that the film kind of really fails at, for me, is the Nick and Judy relationship. I mean, we're treading kind of the same waters that we went through in the first movie, and all we do is kind of deal with Judy just being high energy and them kind of putting that out there. But the other side of it is she doesn't inherently grow from that. And I'm talking from the movie perspective. I don't think as a character she needed to grow from that. I'm just saying that's a personal bias on that. I'm just saying the way the movie frames it. And again, you know, I've advocated this a lot when we sit down and think about scripts or movies or stories. You know, they had an idea where they wanted to go with it. I just think it's kind of muddled there, and it could be a great learning lesson for people to watch to kind of understand that. I don't think it inherently ruins the movie on one level, but it could have just been so much better, and could have even gotten to the levels of the first one. But again, it's a characteristic that Judy didn't need to correct. They don't really correct it. They kind of talk down Nick into accepting it in some way, though on a certain level, Nick was never bothered by it in the first one. So just the way he was, and he actually has the character arc in this one. But the funny thing is he had the character arc in the first one. So like, we get double growth for Nick and supposed growth for Judy, but really don't. Because she's kind of proven right, and it's like I said, that kind of is muddled. So the underlying aspect that made the first one so great just doesn't reach that level. And because they're the central characters, it loses its luster. Because like I said, the plot, though it's a little convoluted in one sense, I kind of like it. The mystery, you can definitely, and this was going through my head, see Chinatown references, and there's a lot of Jack Nicholson movie references in this film. So it's clear the screenwriters kind of really wanted to bring that forth and honor a great actor in that sense. That's how it kind of felt to me. But it was just funny because I picked up on it right away, in the sense that, like, oh my gosh, it's like Chinatown for kids, you know, kidified Chinatown, which is interesting. But at the same time, then you start seeing like Jack Nicholson movie references and things like that. So it just kind of solidified that for me. And there's a lot of that vibe. Instead of water, it's tundra, you know, but you get the twists and turns with the family. You don't get the incest and all these other kind of crazy things, but there is this kind of underlying thing with brothers and sisters and family, and what does that mean to you. And they do kind of play around with like interspecies love in that regard. So there's like these weird uncanny things that are done that, I mean, kids wouldn't pick up on, but as adults you kind of do, and you go, oh wow, that's kind of interesting. But it's in reference to Chinatown. So if you're up on your kind of movie dumb, it just adds a little bit of a dark layer under Zootopia too, which I don't mind. You know, like, some of Disney's best stuff is how it can cross that great divide of getting to the older people, to the younger people, have a little bit of a dark edge. Kids can kind of feel it. They don't know why, but it's kind of like, ooh, I'm right on that edge a little bit. and can be a little fun because, yeah, you're watching a PG or G movie, but it's just got this little bit of like edge to it, right? So, and for the most part, kids dig kind of that edge because it feels a little bit forbidden, but it's not, you know. So it's kind of interesting. And so Zootopia 2 really kind of hits those moments for me, and it kept me engaged in that, you know. But then my mind wanders off because, again, the Nick and Judy stuff just doesn't ring as fun. And the part where they get separated in the film, that kind of took away from the movie a little bit. I get it. I understand why they did it, and how we get back to the ending. And there is an ending part where Judy is out to save Nick that can only happen in animation, I guess, and I'm fine with it on one level, but the way they kind of play the realism and the time stamping of it all, it was kind of it's like those impossible action film moments where in the 80s we just kind of totally just like guffawed at it, like, oh my gosh, that was just dumb. So that one kind of took me out of the film a little bit. I don't know why they went there on that, but okay. And they kind of set up a fall that seemed death-defying, that could kill you, and ultimately it didn't. So then when you go back to that sequence, it really didn't mean all that much that they saved Nick. They kind of muddled their message a little bit there too, from a visual standpoint. I don't think that was the intention, but that was kind of one of those, oh, we don't want to do that to scare the kids kind of thing. So it's kind of weird that they do this crazy Shining thing, but then kind of levity that aspect of it. So a little bit of the tone starts kind of waning at the end of the film. But overall, I think it's a good companion piece to Zootopia. I mean, I definitely could see myself kind of watching 1 and 2 and just knowing that 2 is rather substandard to 1. Maybe now that I kind of know where everything is in Zootopia 2, you can maybe see it on a second time and maybe enjoy it a little bit more. I don't know, because like I said, the Judy Nick thing would bother me a little bit still. I just don't think the writing for them is just up to snuff comparative to the first one. And I agree, the first one's really hard to touch upon in that regard, but that's where it's at. Let me know what you think of Zootopia 2, and if you like what you see, please subscribe. Have a good one, everybody.